Hello, my name is Tatiana Kalganova from Brunel University, London. You are watching a series of my lectures on applied philosophical directions to research processes. The uniqueness of this course is that you will develop the skills necessary to complete the critical thinking from a methodological point of view of any research undertaken in any type of research areas, from social sciences to engineering. This lecture, we are going to focus on induction and deduction. What are differences and how it be applied? So, the aim of our lecture is to understand what is the difference between induction and deduction. So, try to understand the theoretical notation of induction and deduction. And most importantly, we will try to apply our gained knowledge to the practice. As usual, before we start, in front of you, you will need to have a high-quality journal research papers in your particular research area. It could be one state-of-art review research paper in your research area, as well as 3 research journal papers related to your work. And in addition to this, you need to think about your dissertation or recently completed project. Are you ready? Let's start. Induction and deduction. What are differences? What are common features? Let's have a look at induction first. Induction first is based on general conclusions which are drawn from empirical observations. Process of observing facts to generate a theory. Truthfulness of conclusions cannot be definitely assured. When we look in an induction process, our data precedes the theory. In terms of deduction, our conclusions are drawn from theory through local reasoning, hypothesis, and generation. Empirical data are used to determine whether whatever our hypothesis, our theories are rejected or accepted. In the deduction process, theory precedes the data. What are the main differences between induction and deduction? In induction, data precedes the theory. In deduction, theory precedes the data. Let's try to visualize this process. Try to understand what are the differences. When we start our research process in terms of induction, we will start to do a data collection, our empirical results first. We'll start to analyze them, and based on our data, empirical results, we are going to get to the theory, which will lead to some conclusions. In contrary, in deduction, we'll start with existing theory, formulate a new theory, or our new hypothesis we are going to use, and this theory or hypothesis which we generated, it will be proved by the data and empirical results, which will lead to some conclusions. Can you see that there is a major difference between induction and deduction? The research process is carried out differently in terms of using induction or deduction. In the case of induction, we start with data. In the case of deduction, with theory. Let's have a look at an example. For example, I'm doing some social sciences research. In many cases, my social sciences research will be started with literature review, a survey. This will generate a research question. This regenerated research question will lead to collection of the data. For example, my collection of the data can be done via interviews. This will be my research technique, which I'm going to use. Once I have done my data collection using interviews, I can get to data analysis. My data analysis can comprise of several techniques. In these particular cases, I may use, for example, correlation between research question and experimental data to understand how they correlate and what will bring. Based on this analysis, I can bring a conclusion. Can you see that once we start to look in the induction process more closely, we started to look how literature review can influence formulation of our research question. formulation of our research question can influence our data collection method and technique. And from data collection technique, we can get to data analysis. Looking on this process of research process, we can see that answering our research question, our inquiry, we will start with data collection. It means in our research process, I'm going to use induction. Let's look at another example. I have carried out literature review. Based on my literature review, I formulated research question. Once I have research question, I need to do my research design to answer this question. What is important? I need to do data acquisition, data collection. I may, for example, can use data testing based on the number of algorithms. And I will have benchmark data, which I can use to test algorithms. Based on this, I will do data analysis. I can do, for example, performance comparison using statistical performance, classical performance measures and markers to understand how well different algorithms perform. Based on this analysis, I will get conclusion. Can you see in this particular question, in this particular research process, once we start to look on research question, data were first. We collected the data first. Once we analyze the data, we get to a conclusion. Again, in this particular case, we carry out induction. Let's have a look at deduction example. In any type of research question, a process, what we start in order to formulate research question, we need to start with literature review. For example, again, we've done literature review, we formulated research question. Based on research question, we define the method which will be suitable, which will lead generation to new algorithm. Once we develop our new method, we need to justify and demonstrate how well this design method is. So our theory, our particular method, will be tested based on our data collection using one data set, for example. Later on, based on data analysis, we will do statistical analysis and lead to a conclusion. Can you see in our deduction process, we still started with literature review first, which led to formulation of our research question. And once we started to answer research question, first we formulated one theory, some proposed method, which we tested later on the data. So in this particular process, the flow was slightly different. We formulated theory first, which will lead to justification and demonstration of efficiency of this particular method using the data collection. Let's look at another example, again about deduction. Again, we start with literature review. Literature review again first will lead us to formulation of research question. Once I know research question, I can start to formulate the hypothesis. Once I've done generation of hypothesis, this will be my theoretical foundation to understand how can I answer my particular research question. In order to confirm or decline my hypothesis, I would need to do a data acquisition. For example, data acquisition can include 4 company samples, duration of 18 months, and for 500 observations. Have you seen? I started not looking only on the process overall, I started to look in details, such as when I speak about data acquisition, I started to introduce some specifics of my data. In this particular case, my data could be several companies, duration of this data, how many observations. This will provide us what my data is. If we start to look into this data, it will help us in future to understand how subjective or objective quality of the data are for answering the research question. Once we've done our data acquisition, the next step is we need to do a data analysis. Data analysis, again, could be done using regression analysis or, in this particular case, statistical analysis. Based on data analysis, we will draw conclusion. Looking on this particular case, have you seen from very, very general flow of induction and deduction, we started to look in more crystallized process of visualization of our research process, where literature review will formulate our research question. Based on research questions, we can formulate our hypothesis, and this hypothesis will be tested on some particular data, and we can specify specifics of a data, and this data will be analyzed using different statistical analysis, which will lead to conclusion. Can you see? We can start to summarize our induction or deduction process using more specifics about our process rather than just telling that I have a data of a theory. In your particular project, what I would like you to do is to visualize to me the research process of induction or deduction for each research paper, looking the following. When we look on literature review, can you put in the box for literature review, include the authors and the years of publications? When we start to look formulation of research questions, formulate question in such way so that the paper are trying to answer this question. Put it in the form of the question. When we speak about data collection, try to include specific of our data sets, details of our data sets. For example, what if you're working on finance for your data collections? What type of companies you are looking? What type of, what is durations of your data set? How long it was going on? Once you've done your step on the data collection, get to data analysis. Name all techniques which are used for each paper. Next one is going to be conclusion. Just write down the answer this particular paper is answering on your research question. Doing this, you are actually visualize in graphical form your research paper. And also you are summarizing induction or deduction process of your research paper in graphical form with introducing some particular details. These particular details will be used later on to identify subjectivity and objectivity questions. In conclusion, what did we learn so far? We learned what is induction and deduction. We learned what are the differences between induction and deduction. We learned how to identify the type of your research from induction and deduction point of view. More importantly, using induction and deduction concepts, we started to learn how to visualize this process of your paper. How to apply the knowledge of induction and deduction to visualization of research process of your particular piece of work or your paper. Thank you very much for watching. See you next.